Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service.
Grüße, meine Lieben, ich bin Kryon.
Once again, we find ourselves in a temple.
Wieder einmal befinden
The sun is coming up outside and we are inside.
wir außen.
I want to go slow on this message.
Heute werden wir langsam.
The reason is because it is filled with information about numbers.
Der Grund ist, weil diese Botschaft gefüllt,
And they're not the numbers of Egypt.
es sind nicht die Zahlen von.
This is the temple of Edfu,
Dies ist der Tempel von Edfu.
and it is so well preserved and beautiful.
Ist so gut,
The sacred areas still feel very sacred.
die Heiligen.
And it is well preserved because it is young.
Der Tempel,
Dear ones,
meine Lieben,
the history of this land is grand,
die Geschichte ist
like no other history on the planet.
wie keine andere
It spans 6 civilizations,
Nation
retaining the same culture
mit der
around the same river. There is so much here to know.
Es gibt
The history is rich with metaphors,
die Geschichte
and the truths are profound.
und die Wahrheit.
It would take books filled with Egyptologists writing
Es würde Bücher,
to just give you the introduction of Egypt.
euch nur ein.
Each temple that we visit
Jeder
has a time frame of what was happening then.
hat einen Zeitraum.
This one was toward the end,
Dieser
when Egypt was conquered,
entstand.
when the drawings were slightly different. It is something so spectacular to understand the 3,000-year history.
Es ist ganz sensationell.
The esoterics and metaphysics alone is staggering in its truth.
Esoterik und die Metaphysik.
I am not here to reveal these things.
Ich bin nicht
It is well known.
sehr
It has
bekannt.
been studied, humans with humans, for 3,000 years.
Menschen mit Menschen haben sie 30.
I would like to call this channel the bigger puzzle. 3,000 years of culture is what you are looking at this week.
Ist das.
And you are beginning to see some truths, as I said yesterday.
Und die beginnt ein.
They are the same truths that have been all over the earth.
Die ist auf
Yesterday we told you about the colors,
Yesterday hat.
about the water. We told you about the sounds,
Wir haben
and a little bit about the numbers.
und ein bisschen.
For all of these things are well known in other cultures all around the planet.
Diese Dinge sind in anderen Kulturen.
Did you ever wonder why there are so many sevens
Habt ihr euch
all over the planet
überall
with cultures who did not know one another,
mit dabei?
captured the energy of the seven
Die haben die
as being so sacred, assigning the chakras of the body to colors and this number? We've told you that the Egyptians, like so many other cultures, looked to the stars. And we have told you that from the beginning of history before history, they knew of the 7 sisters.
wussten sie
All over the planet, there are similar numbers
überall
of the creation story.
von der Schöpfungsgeschichte.
And you see it not only in this culture, but in so many others.
Und ihr seht das nicht nur in dieser Kultur.
We have not yet discussed the alignment and the numbers that you will find here in the tombs,
Noch haben
also present in the temples. For the geometry itself tells a story with numbers. When the Egyptologists began measuring things,
als
they saw the sacred geometry
sie entdeckt,
that the Egyptians understood and they knew.
die Ägypten
It's all about numbers, you might say.
mit Zahlen.
And that is what I wish to speak to you about today.
Darüber möchte ich heute reden.
There is a bigger picture,
Es gibt ein größeres,
a much bigger picture.
ein viel größeres Bild.
And I'm going to make a statement.
Und ich mache
Since 2012, you are the only human beings who are able to see the puzzle complete.
seit ihr die
For there is a worldwide planetary puzzle of numbers coming together.
weil es ein weltweites
Let me ask you something. What is it that all of the ancients on the planet had in common?
Was haben all die zusammen
Besides living on the dirt of the earth, what did they have in common?
im Leben auch gemeinsam?
And the answer is this. They all looked at the stars.
Sie haben alle,
Even though the stars had different positions in different hemispheres, they all saw the same thing.
haben die Ahnen,
The stars shifted over time.
die Sterne,
A culture who is 3,000 years old saw it profoundly.
eine Kultur, die
But even the ones who are shorter lived saw it as well. The Aztecs, the Toltecs, the Maya,
die Maya,
they all saw it. The Tibetans, they saw it.
sie sahen es alle,
The Hopi Indian nation, they saw it.
die Indianer,
The ones in the middle of the Pacific, they saw it.
diejenigen in der Mitte,
And it was called the precession of the equinoxes.
das war genannt die
The precession of the equinoxes.
Prozession,
It represents something in astronomy that the ancients knew and saw and measured.
dass die
A 26,000-year wobble of the earth.
sieben
Many on the planet assign prophecies to this wobble.
viele auch
The Tibetans had a prophecy and information on what it meant.
die Tibeter hat, was dies bedeutet.
Much of what they had was numerology.
Was sie hatten, waren
But it was the master astronomers of the Maya who assigned the numbers that I want to talk about.
die Zahlen mit dem
This is not complex,
Text,
but there are a few things I want you to see as the numbers start to come together. This is a puzzle that I mentioned 8 months ago,
es ist ein Rätsel,
and yet there are few who are putting this together.
aber es gibt nur wenige.
When you start to measure history,
Wenn ihr beginnt, die Geschichte,
most of the archaeologists say that it started just before Egypt,
sagen die meisten ab,
that you could have 3,000 years of this culture plus another 2,000 years after. But before that, there was very little.
aber
We mentioned originally that the history before Egypt is difficult to find.
wir haben schon davon gesprochen.
It's almost like it started here, as measured by historians on the planet. Now that is what we wish to speak of. If you put Egypt's time together with the next 2,000 years,
Wenn ihr die Ägypter
you get slightly longer than 5,000 years.
kommt hierauf.
Now stop right there. Those who wish to start looking at the planet's prophecies will recognize this number. This
Sie diese Zahl kennen.
is the long count of the Maya calendar.
Es ist die
5,125 years approximately.
5100 Länder.
It happens to almost match that history which you study now plus your own.
Es war beinahe
Egypt
diese
plus 2,000 years is the long count of the Maya calendar.
Das ist die lange des.
And the prophecy around the Maya calendar is what we teach.
Und die Prophezeiung rund,
It relates to everything here.
es hat mit allem.
And then the one number that seems to be hiding to many,
Und dann
even the metaphysics of it hides to many. Let me review what the Tibetans have said and what others have said,
das andere,
that there have been literally 5 civilizations on this planet,
dass es Buchstaben,
and you only have seen and measured one, your own.
ihr habt nur darf
That in this precession of the equinoxes, there have been 5 civilizations.
gab es
completely and separate and unknown to one another. The first four destroyed themselves.
Die erste,
The evidence of that will be seen someday.
der Beweis,
But for you, you really only have seen the last 5,000 years as a civilized history of the planet.
ihr habt nur die letzten 5
Here is what I want to say yet again. Remember, the prophecy of the equinoxes centers around the wobble of the earth. When the wobble of the earth is at its center point,
Wenn die Bewegung
when you can look at the sun and it lines up with the center of the galaxy,
wenn ihr seht,
that is the center of the wobble. December 21,
21. Dezember
2012.
2012.
But here is what many have missed.
Hier ist Farbe.
If you take 26,000 years
Wenn ihr sagt,
and you divide it by 5,
und es durch
you will have the Mayan long count 5 times.
dann habt ihr das 5.
What a coincidence. Dear ones, you are right on schedule for a very high prophecy which has involved most of the ancients on this planet, who measured the things that they built by the stars, who watched the precession of the equinox and knew the prophecies. But all you have known is the last 5,000 years. Isn't it a coincidence that the beginning of time here in Egypt and the end of the Mayan calendar just happens to be the official long count? Now let me explain more. What have we said for these years?
Was habt ihr?
We have said that you, as human beings and old souls, are here for this graduation, this shift that is taking place.
Seid hier,
And that the reason for Kryon at all was to pull the puzzle together
ist diese
and to show you what a higher consciousness is that is coming to this earth.
euch zu zeigen,
The basic truths of a higher consciousness are written on the walls of the oldest temples in Egypt.
und die wichtigen
And there are those who would say, Kryon, how can you say that? They had many gods instead of one.
viele von euch werden sagen,
Because the metaphysics of compassion and truth are universal. When you start to look at integrity, compassion, and truth, the ancients had more of it than you do. You are starting to relearn
wir sind dabei, dass
what was literally inscribed in the walls of the ancients.
es ist auf
In North America, the Hopi Indian shows the prophecy on a rock. Oh, the drawings are not as elegant as they are here,
auch ganz,
but it shows exactly what I'm speaking of.
aber es zeigt welche.
The precession of the equinoxes is the prophecy of the planet.
Ist die Planeten.
And you are now starting to participate in a shift of consciousness that you have never seen before.
Und ihr sagt dabei,
And if you will listen to the Egyptologists speak about the metaphysics of that which is believed here,
über das, was hier
and the metaphors of that which is believed here in ancient times, you will see the truth.
was in Alchemie,
They understood the one God.
in Gott,
It had many parts, but it was always the one that was in heaven. Dear ones, there is a great deal to know about this puzzle.
es gibt
But overwhelming things I want to tell you is about you in history at this moment.
es ist über
There are those of you who sit in this temple hearing me right now,
diejenigen von euch,
and there are those who are listening after the fact. I want to talk to those who are right here, right now.
über euch
What do the ancients tell you right now?
gesagt.
The ones who walked in here, what do they say?
Was habt,
Why did they do what they did?
weshalb
And even Egypt in its end times had the same theme.
Ägypten ist
A temple built more than just for a mythological god or one who was part human. It was about the sacredness and the integrity of a compassionate God with a plan.
eines mitfühlenden Gottes.
It's only since 2012 that you can see the puzzle complete. When you start to add the numbers of the civilizations, it starts to tell the story. The precession of the equinox and the prophecy is not a metaphor.
Äquinox.
The ancients said it was coming, and it's here.
Die Ahnen sagten, dass
We'll talk more about this later.
wir werden mehr über dies sprechen später.
Let this puzzle be complete. Let you see that the 3,000 years of Egypt plays an important part in exposing the compassion of the Creator
Indem sie das,
and how it was looked at
das Mitgefühl
and worshipped
sie es
and the beauty of all that is. The puzzle starts to come together.
langsam setzt.
And so it is.
Und so ist es.